Alright, hello everyone, welcome to this video. Yeah, I spent a lot of time today working on this video, and I just reviewed it, my last draft, and it was cringe. And so I hope I can just get this now done in a single take and not have it to be so drawn out. So yeah, the idea today is that we're going to use routing in a different way, and I haven't talked about routing on the Waldorf Iridium yet, so I use it as an opportunity to show a patch idea and also demonstrate how routing works or how you can use it in an interesting way. So routing is here accessible in the mix section, and you get your 3 oscillators up here, 2 filters, then there's a DF that stands for digital former, and then it goes into the amp and through a series of effects. So for what we're going to do, or yeah, maybe I should explain it. So my idea was to have 2 different filter sections, and so that I can have one oscillator go in one filter section and the rest goes into the normal dual filter. And we're going to do this by setting up the routing to parallel, and then use the oscillator destination setting that is available on every oscillator. You find it here in the routing section, so it's easier to access it here, but you can also go into the control tab of any oscillator, and then you will find it down here. Okay, so back to the routing. So now all the available filters are now in parallel, so I can say using the destination knob in which area I want the signal to go at what percentage. So it goes from DF0 to filter 100 to DF100 and filter 0%. So yeah, and with that we can say the first oscillator should go in a normal filter section, the second one also, and the third one we're gonna say it's the signal of that one should go 100% into digital former and ignore the dual filter. So this way, yeah, our setup is done. And when we now do a little test, I'm going to activate the waveform engine here on all 3. And when we listen to it, sounds like a normal sawtooth, right? There's no audible difference in sound. But if we now use this one here, the first 2 are going through the normal filters, so we can hear filtering works. But when I listen to this third oscillator, you can hear it is unaffected by a dual filter, so our routing is working now. So now I'm going to go to the digital former and select the bandpass. Bandpass 24, and let's see how that sounds. Yeah, so I want this sound, and maybe something more resonant even. 12 dB is better. So yeah, let's take this one and combine it with this sound. Okay, so let's just focus on this one here. Cool thing about digital former is that you also get access to a pan control, and once you set modulations up in the screen, when you switch out the type of the digital former, you can get some happy accidents, or maybe, I don't know, the parameters here are getting replaced as soon as you change the type. So I want to modulate the filter or the frequency here with an LFO. So I'm just going to pick LFO 6, move the knob while on the screen here. Modulations. So, and the speed is already pretty fast by default, so we get this fast movement sound, and can close this out, and you can already see here how it's moving. You can see that by enabling the animate mods function. You find that in the tools on every filter. You can also even add an analyzer to that if you want. So yeah, that's it. Let's go now to the LFO and make it a bit slower. Close the mod targets. Then change the mode to global, so it's not reliant on a trigger. It's continuously running freely in the background. Make it a bit slower. And I want this to be a random value. So we're gonna set it to sample and hold shape. Increase the speed maybe a bit. So I'm going for a bit of a wah-wah effect on this oscillator only. And I want to spice it up with adding a lot of body using the other two oscillators. But currently we're focusing on that. So the next step would be to add some movement. And for that, again, we go into the digital former. Let me re-enable the animation and hide the analyzer. So now we go to panning. Modulations again. We choose a free oscillator, like number 5. And there we have our little rotary effect already. But just like with the first LFO that we configured, this is gonna be also random. And also running freely. Well, you could sync it to the track tempo. Okay. Maybe add some more resonance. All right. I would say let's increase a bit the release time of the amp envelope. And now we get a more pronounced effect of our modulation. Okay, so next up is the other two oscillators. So yeah, and as you can hear, there's still simple sawtooths. So the third oscillator going through the digital former is basically my ear candy for this patch. And I think pulse would sound better with this. So make this a square. And also maybe a bit more narrow. And maybe an octave lower. So we get a bit of a harpsichord sound. Now I find this all still pretty dead center sounding, so we're gonna widen it up by increasing the kernel count on one of the waveforms and then spread the stereo field. So we're gonna use oscillator 2 and perhaps maybe warp this one. That's a bit brighter. And now I'm gonna increase the count to, I don't know, something like 5 or 4, doesn't matter. At one point you get diminishing returns. So I'm gonna increase the stereo. Now we can start balancing again. So that all oscillators now have their space and don't overpower each other. Adding more release. So since it's a dual filter, we could start experimenting adding another filter here. Maybe pronounce the frequency in the lower region or mid-low. I find the modulation of the wah-wah effect a bit too harsh. Let me disable those again. I think I have to bring the speed down a little bit. Maybe also the effect on panning. There's a nice parameter on the LFO that is attack and decay. So you get a more of a fade in into that modulation. So let's use that on number 6 here to round off a bit the modulation. Just a minor amount already does a lot. And now of course we could experiment with different types. Okay, then let's bring back the other parts. Okay, now I think it's we could also add a modulation to the main filter here by simply using the standard envelope that is pre-mapped. Okay, so I think we're pretty much done with the main part of this patch. So let's go into the effects section and add a delay and a reverb. So first thing I'm gonna do is increase the speed. Didn't like the dotted feel. Maybe add a bit of low cut. so we don't get so much low frequencies in the repeated versions in the delay. I think feedback is fine, but what I don't like is that now the panning effect is so pronounced, so I'm just gonna narrow it a bit down to about 25, and last but not least, make it more dry. Again to 25% here. Yeah, that's okay. And next up, maybe add a reverb. And what I also like to do when I'm working on effects, when I'm not sure about a certain behavior, I go all the way 100% wet and then play with the parameters to learn what kind of difference they actually make. And so here I got a very bright reverb. I think that would fit nicely. So also want to go for a room feel, so I decrease the time. Also decrease the pre-delay a bit. And now I'm gonna mix it back with the original signal. About 40%. Okay, so that's our patch for now. I've prepared some stuff here inside the DAW, some basic rhythm, 4 to the floor with some groove elements, yeah, Neutron bass line. So yeah, this is what it sounds like. Maybe we can add some more effects even. So let's test out maybe a phaser. Okay. Yeah, I guess I mentioned in the beginning that we have yeah, we gave up the digital former to have this kind of setup, but we can always also in the effects get another digital former, if you will. Well, not really a former, but the drive effect of the digital former. So with that, we're gonna add some saturation to the sound. And I'm going to start off low here, and as type I'm going to use a tube saturation, and maybe start with a 0 amount, and then we're going to see how that sounds like. Maybe a different type. Okay, so how you come up with stuff usually is by just turning knobs and see how that affects it, and then when you like how the sound is affected in a certain movement, you use a modulator to replicate that movement. So that's why I usually just go about and try out some stuff, twist knobs, and then when I'm like, oh, going back and forth, this sounds really cool, then I try to make modulation for it, so I don't have to do it over and over again, and then you start building, and all these little blocks will then start adding up to a complex sound. So for example, here I like going a bit into the distortion, but not always. So I want to use the envelope of the filter or the amp, probably of the filter, because I think that's a plucky one. But we can also just make a new envelope here, envelope number 2, and use that to modulate in the effects section the amount of the drive. So and since the envelope is triggered by the gate signal like everything else, it will then be active when the note comes in at the beginning of our sound, and then I can use it to attenuate that little moment in time. So let's go here to modulations, move the amount knob, and then free envelope 2 is set to drive amount now. And we maybe should go easy on this at first, and we can close this out and now work on our envelope. So I'm starting at 0 because now our envelope amount is taken over or taken care of it, how loud something gets. So just working with the decay time here. It's a bit difficult to hear with everything else going on. But I think you can hear the difference. This is now without it. This is now with. Now I'm added a bit of an attack curve, so it starts a bit slower and then decays right away. But doing so, we can hear it a bit for a long time. Would have been easier if the envelopes here had an hold phase, but this works too for now. And now I can start leveling out, since the movement is okay. So I got this little bite now at the top of the attack phase. Okay, to round things off, we could add something to the master section. I prepared a little bit here. I usually add some saturation here and there, and I got some tape saturation here, and you can hear that very nicely on the kick. So let's solo that for now. So this is without it, and this with. So I get a bit of top end sparkle there. And then I also have this multi-band exciter here with some various modes. I like to use tape and retro on a higher end to brighten it a bit up. Sounds like a bit of a tape recording or something like that. You can also isolate the bands here and listen to what each amount actually does to the sound. Pretty nice plugin. Yeah, that's a tube. Can hear it right away. Okay, and yeah, with everything else together. Yeah, and that's it. That's our patch. So I like it a lot, and I think I'm going to keep this project as it is. Also save the sound for later, and then maybe, I don't know, add a pad sound next. So that's going to be a different video then. If you actually like this kind of content, I don't know. It's an experiment, and I did this by request. And again, as always, if you have any questions about anything, any gear that you see in the videos or whatever, or plugins, software, I can also go on about that if you like. I have a good collection. So yeah, I'm happy to help. So just leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't, and see you guys in the next one. Bye.